Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're talking Tencent stock, ticker symbol TCEHY. As a disclaimer, this is not investment advice. This is just a research video that I put together highlighting some recent news regarding the company, a look into its history and development. I have a small position with Tencent, so please like, share, and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Is Tencent. Not only is it China's biggest social network, but it's the largest gaming company in the world. And now it's the 5th largest internet company on the planet. It's joined Apple, Amazon, and Facebook on the list of massive tech companies that have passed $500 billion in market cap, making it Asia's first company to do this. Just a day later, Tencent actually surpassed Facebook in market value. So what's behind this massive conglomerate coming out of China? Tencent is a Chinese investment holding conglomerate with many subsidiaries. They include social networks, payment systems, media, entertainment, smartphones, e-commerce, property, advertising, and there's still more. The company's stock is up more than 11,000% since it went public in 2004 on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. And if you've ever said the words, wouldn't it be nice if there was an app that could... Chances are, Tencent already has it. At the center of the giant conglomerate is one app, Weixin, known as WeChat outside of China. Think of it like a Facebook meets WhatsApp meets Venmo and Candy Crush and Tinder and Amazon, and there's still other functions like booking a doctor's appointment or finding out how densely crowded a location is. The number of people on WeChat is now closing in on 1 billion users. So how did WeChat become so popular? You often hear about the mobile-first markets. In the US, back in 1999, there were about 50 computers for every 100 people. In China, there was about 1 computer for every 100 people. That means most people in China first became acquainted with the internet through this device. Fast forward to today, where the total number of mobile users is approaching the same number of total internet users. Now, using an email address is pretty rare for Chinese consumers. The preferred way to communicate is chat apps, and it's not just for friends and family. It's a common way for people to do business, using the app with colleagues and even strangers too. If you go back to the early 2000s, you'll see Tencent anticipated chat apps' popularity, and it's paid off. Ma Huateng and his co-founders started Tencent in Shenzhen, China's tech capital, back in 1998. The company was created to meet the demand of China's growing internet cafes and made most of its early money from online games and a text messaging service. Now, Ma Huateng is the country's 2nd richest man and worth an estimated $42.3 billion. That's more than the founders of Google, making him the world's 9th richest man. And he can thank Tencent's enormous footprint for that wealth. Tencent has acquired and invested in so many companies, it's almost impossible to figure out where it starts and where it ends. First, there's the social networks. In addition to WeChat, there's QQ, with more than 861 million monthly active users. For some perspective, that's more than Instagram. Then there's the multiple digital payment platforms it claims. And WeChat Pay may be its first foray outside of China. Entertainment is also a big part of it. Tencent is actually the biggest computer game publisher in the world, bigger than US game publisher EA Arts and Activision Blizzard combined. And if that's not enough, there's its information and news portals, its cloud providers, and its recent move into artificial intelligence too. Like its rival Alibaba, Tencent now has its eyes beyond China's 1.4 billion people. The company has invested in American companies including tech juggernauts Tesla and Snapchat. And it's even invested in companies that are testing out flying cars and asteroid mining. The company announced it will roll out its WeChat payment services in Malaysia after it gained an e-payment license. It's the first time the company has gained a license like this to expand outside of China. Tencent is also planning to get its massively popular video game, King of Glory, into the US. As it's known, Western companies have a hard time getting into China, but things aren't much easier for Chinese internet companies trying to expand globally. But if Tencent continues to grow and break records at its current pace, well, it could put it head-to-head with some of Silicon Valley's biggest names.
Tencent launches new online shopping feature in WeChat app, in a challenge to rivals Alibaba and JD. As a holder of the company, it's nice to see that it's taken on some rivals and it's getting into this space of e-commerce, which has become the new normal. So it's nice to see that the company is making the adjustments and adding this to the company. China to test digital yuan on Tencent-backed food delivery platform. This is as well nice to see from the company. Food delivery has taken off here in the States, and I can imagine that in China, it is going to continue to see its prosperity. Is it the right time to buy Tencent? Analysts expect Tencent's revenue and earnings to rise 22% and 17%, respectively, this year, as its strengths offset its weaknesses. That's a solid growth rate for a stock that trades about 33 times forward. Earnings. So this is nice to see from the Motley Fool. The article goes in to say Tencent is also better diversified than Alibaba and Baidu, which still rely heavily on e-commerce sales and online ads, respectively. The only near-term threat to Tencent is the legislative threat to potentially delist Chinese stocks. And that's kind of always been here. That's always kind of been in the background, the delisting of Chinese stocks. So I think it's smart that the Motley Fool decided to add that in there. It's just wise to kind of understand what you're buying, obviously, and understand that there has always been some fuzz in the background about Chinese stocks and the delisting of them. Here's a look at the Tencent Holdings price history. I like to see where I got in, where it's going. I like to see its performance. And thus far, since its inception, the stock has really done quite well. Obviously, coming off of its March lows, it has made a run from the 40s up to where we're currently at, the high 60s, the low 70s. So I feel confident about adding to my position. So I'm going to go ahead and drop you into a video clipping from the March lows regarding this company, as well as a look into its trading view.
Oh, there's no doubt. Tencent is an extremely important company for the internet ecosystem. I would argue more important to China internet than a Facebook is for U.S. In terms of ecosystem. So certainly rattles what's already some sketchy, uncertain hands as we try to dissect the Chinese macro situation. I don't think there's a lot of direct takeaways. What Tencent was struggling with was really about approval of game titles, and of course censorship on media is a much different dynamic in China than it is in other markets. And the retail companies like an Alibaba or JD or many others really aren't subject to the same sort of scrutiny as the media companies like Tencent.
Rob, you highlighted something I do want to ask you about. When you talk about trying to dissect the macro in China, I know you're a stock-specific analyst, but what happens there to the overall economy must be important to the companies that you cover. What's your sense when you read in the paper now we're seeing rising corporate defaults, a potential slowdown, the government feeling like they've got to once again subsidize the economy?
I think there's really a bifurcation of factors within the Chinese economy, and you've got the traditional manufacturing sort of Rust Belt sector that is most people understanding of the fabric of Chinese economy is centered in its history, but over the past several years you've had this really strong growth in the services economy and consumption to the tune of like 20% compounded for the last several years. It's really become a much bigger driver, and the old China is sort of ceding way to new China, and you've got this great consumption growth story that has global investors very excited about the prospects of China. That's all, I think, very much intact. Of course, the total economy is going to weigh on the components of the economy. There's no doubt about that. But I do think that the consumption growth story still has some very favorable secular drivers behind it.
I see you have buy ratings still on Alibaba and on JD.com, but does Tencent's report give you pause at all?
Not so much because it's really company specific. The one number I didn't like as much was that their ad revenue was a little bit light. That's not necessarily subject to the censor approval dynamic. Maybe a little bit of a signal there. But the other indicators that we watch, particularly the consumption of online physical goods, those metrics came out overnight 2 nights ago. They were very robust at 25% growth. So we do see lots of signs that there's still healthy trends underneath the currency fluctuation and the macro concerns.
Going to take a look at my trading view, the 1 month trading window of Tencent, showcasing some levels of support. Had a few pullbacks from its levels of resistance, which are in the mid to high 60s. I believe that if we can break through the mid to high 60s, that this stock will continue to run. I do notice a stair-stepping pattern of ascension, so I do feel confident about adding to my position in this company. Basically, not just for the price action, but from everything that I have showcased thus far with its innovation, I feel confident about adding to this company. Going to showcase to you, coming up here right now, an ETF that holds Tencent, ARK-F, ran by the active manager Kathy Wood, who's been in the news lately. I really do like her. I like her style. The ETF is pretty gnarly. I like all of the ARK ETFs, to be honest. This one is the FinTech, which has blockchain technology, transaction innovations, risk transformation, frictionless funding platforms. So if you like the sector, if you like that space where Tencent is at, then perhaps you might want to look at this ETF. I am holding this ETF as well because it allows me to be a little bit more diversified in the space. I just wanted to showcase it to y'all as well, so that way you understand my reasoning as for why I would hold not just the company, but as well as the ETF that it's held in. Its largest allocation is in this ETF. The performance of this ETF has done really, really well, and I believe in this ETF a lot. So just wanted to showcase the top 10 countries that this ETF is allocated to: the United States, Hong Kong, Japan, China, the top 4, as well as its top 10 sectors: software, investment, banking, services, real estate. Its top 10 holdings, right? Square, Mercado Libre, Zillow, Tencent holdings right there at 4.69%. I've always heard that you should buy what you know, own what you understand. So I understand I'm not very good at this video game, but I do know that Tencent owns this video game along with Activision. So myself, along with a lot of my friends and a lot of other people, with everything that's going on right now, there's not much to do besides playing video games and being on your mobile device. So just thought I'd showcase some of my Call of Duty skills right here. I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I appreciate your time. Please continue to leave comments. I really appreciate it. Please share, like, subscribe. Let me know if there's another company that you would like me to research. This company was mentioned in some comments in the past, so I appreciate your time. Please stay safe and have a good week.